Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la
Shabbat Shalom. Ooh, hot mic. We're small but mighty tonight. I do have a request. We do not have anyone in the kitchen for oneg tonight, so if some of you would be so kind as to stay a little longer and help us clean up, it would be greatly appreciated. Happy to have you all here tonight. We've got a busy calendar. Don't forget, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock is Torah study on Zoom. You don't even have to get out of your jammies to attend. Next Friday night, we will not be streaming services because it is the first night of Passover. We will be having our Passover Seder here at 6 o'clock, and reservations are closed. Don't forget our Gala 65th anniversary on May 14th. English is a second language. The price for the early bird special for the event ends next Friday, so be sure to get your reservation in next week or by next week to get the bargain price of $65, because after that it goes up to $75. And thank you, as always, to Rabbi Mark, Cantor Ken, and of course Dr. Ray on the Clapanova, to our techies, Chris Jastrock, Dave Youngman, and Phil Carey, and to our ushers tonight, Victoria and Harry Jacobs. Thank you all, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Dina. And thank you all for your patience this evening. I apologize for our late start to our Shabbat service. Judaism teaches us that on Shabbat we operate on a different time schedule, and it was unfortunate that tonight all of the traffic lights, the servers, and everything between where I was dining and Temple Beth Or operated on Shabbat time. So I thank you very much for your patience, and I apologize for our delay this evening. It is wonderful for us to truly all be together on this evening of Shabbat. We have not only come to the end of our week, but truly we've come to a moment when we can pause and to celebrate the joy of creation. That is what Shabbat asks us to do. So much of our lives we spend under the regiment of our calendars, appointments, tasks to do, emails to respond, voicemail messages to reply to. Shabbat gives us that opportunity to set all of that aside, to remind ourselves that we are not only human doings, but even more importantly, we are human beings. That's what we try to elevate on this Shabbat, is our connection to the world of nature, our connection to each other, which is often interrupted by the challenges that fill our days. And so we take a deep breath on this Shabbat. An opportunity for us to reconnect. You know, at one time when computers first came out, we were encouraged to run a utility application, a utility app called Defragment, defrag by short. For those of us who remember that, that was a way to help streamline and to help make the computer operate more efficiently. Because unlike our filing cabinet drawers, where we would put all the necessary papers in particular manila folders and put them in particular drawers, identified with particular titles, a computer doesn't operate that way. It used to identify each sheet of page, each sheet that would go into that manila folder with a particular code, and then just toss it in to the drawer. And then with that code would be able to put them all together for us. But after months of usage, those files would become so discombobulated that it would take a while before it could open the file again, and so you would run defrag periodically to put all of those codes back together again in a single folder. Modern computers don't operate that way anymore, but in a way we still do. We need a defrag program to help us put our pieces back together again. After a week of activities, routines, daily chores, we need an opportunity to reassemble those fragmented parts of who we are so that we might continue in the week ahead. That's what Shabbat can be for us. For those of you joining us at home, I invite you to set aside some candles. In a moment, we will share a reading and a blessing over those candles, some Kiddush wine or juice or your favorite beverage that you would like to use, a bissela of challah or a lovely dinner roll or whatever you have to celebrate and commemorate Shabbat. I invite you to set that aside at this time. In addition, we bring Shabbat greetings from Jeff and Wilma Shear, Rita and Bob Rubin, Sylvia and Leo Schmidt, and Sandy and Jeff Strauss. And I wish to acknowledge that Jeff is a past president of our congregation and a member of our temple board. and that Rita is here with her daughter Sue. Thank you both for being here and for your continued support of our Shabbat greetings. And so we welcome Shabbat. May the rest and quiet of this hour of worship refresh our inner lives and renew in us the sense of holiness. Fill our hearts with Shabbat peace and Shabbat serenity, that we may hear the voice of our innermost soul and be moved to build our lives on the abiding foundations of all that is holy. That is what Shabbat must be for us, not to tear the world apart, not to wrestle with time, but to let warmth and care and light come forth from deep within ourselves. We welcome this Shabbat with the words of Shalom Aleichem, acknowledging the various messengers that have traveled with us during this past week, those of flesh and blood, those of memory, those of spirit. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu. Poechem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Huni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I invite Leslie Berger to join us on the bima as we share readings and meditations over the lighting of our Shabbat candles.
As the great doors of night are opening, we come into the clean, quiet room of Shabbat. Let us be thankful as we light these candles like eyes of holiness for this moment of peace. Let us savor the fruit of the vine, the blood of the earth that quickens us. Let us be thankful for grain, fruit of grasses that feed the cow, the gazelle in us. Let us be grateful for the children and the work of the week that are our own fruitfulness. Let us never forget that food comes from the earth we must cherish and heal. Through labor we must respect and reward. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chad l'kner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, source of all being, who calls us to holy acts through mitzvot and inspires us to kindle these lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נשר שבת, שבת, שבת.
With juice and with wine, we acknowledge the joy of the past week and of coming to the end of our week. Our tradition teaches us we drink from the cup of joy, we drink from the cup of sorrow, and often we do so at the same time. This past week has been filled with joys and with blessings, and has also been filled with trials and with tribulations. Nonetheless, we take this opportunity for a moment to recharge our batteries of joy, for that is truly the only way that we can face the tribulations and the sorrows that are going to come our ways. And so with the words of our Kiddush, we acknowledge the blessings of this Shabbat, of coming to the end of the week, of finding the silver lining in the dark gray of clouds that have intruded themselves into our lives, of acknowledging that at least for this moment, whatever we are facing, whether it be joy and pleasant, whether it be sorrow and difficulties, we're going to take this opportunity to look for the positive. We join together with our Cantor with the words of our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. אשר קדישנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, קיוונו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה ratzon hinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. L'chaim, Ray. Speaking and listening are both endangered activities in our culture. There is so much information exchanged each day and each hour, and I might add each minute, that it is hard to pay attention to our speech. Are we saying what we really need to say? Are we speaking from the heart? Do we know when not to speak? And as for listening, who can hear anything amidst all the noise around us all of these days? There is such a flood of messages coming in. How can we discern which are important? In prayer, we speak from the heart. It does not matter if we are sure who is listening, if we do not understand how prayer is supposed to work, if we are not certain we even believe in prayer at all. For moments at a time, we can set aside our questions and just say what we need to say. What a relief. Truly, what a relief to be able to speak as loudly as we want or as silently, without worrying about being understood, without anticipating the other's response. Jewish practice gives us rich ways to speak and to listen. When we need to speak to God, when we are too filled with joy or despair to hear anything but what is in our own hearts, then it is time to pray. We rise as we are able for our call to worship.
Lie, 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 la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. La 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitvona meshanei etim umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom uvevi laila, Umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimlo chalenu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. It is evening, and children slowly dream away the storms of the day. It is evening, and stars glow gently in the quiet heavens. Can we understand a dream? Find a net to capture the meaning of a glowing star? What bridge spans the vast space we must cross to reach understanding? How small are we who attempt that very journey? And yet somehow we learn to find our glory in a brave and endless struggle to comprehend eternal mysteries. We are voyagers, all of us voyagers in an infinite sea. Our destination always beyond the horizon, but we are voyagers.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael ahavta. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael ahavta. All the world sings to you, all the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, 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 all the world sings to you. The song of the trees when wind stirs the leaves, the song of the earth when raises its thirst, the song of the sea when waves are set free, the song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Chante-toi, le monde chante-toi, tous les mondes chante-toi, le monde chante-toi, tous les mondes chante-toi, le monde chante-toi, tous les mondes chante-toi, le monde chante-toi. The song of the trees when wind stirs the leaves, the song of the earth when rain soothes its thirst, the song of the sea when waves are set free, the song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Todo el mundo canta a ti, todo el mundo canta a ti. All the world sings, all the world sings, all the world sings, all the world sings to you.
Such a peppy melody, reminding us of what Judaism is truly all about. We take our name from the tribe of Judah. We take our land, our name from the territory known as Judea. And Judea is based in a word that is so much needed today. The word is based on the name of Judea, where Judea's mother said, I'm going to thank God, Odeh Adonai. I will thank God. So Jews and Judaism and Judea are all related, and Judah is all related to gratitude. And so Judaism could be best defined as a people who give thanks to God, who show gratitude. That is what is at our core. And that is what is so desperately needed in this world of self-serving instant gratification. The ability to express gratitude to another human being, to a creator, for the blessings with which we have been blessed. We do this with our statement of faith, our Shema, which basically says, hear, listen. Adonai is our God. Adonai is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Va'ed.
We may be seated.
And you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall speak of them when you're sitting in your house, when you're walking by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
Such a timeless melody Debbie Friedman gave us for those very sacred and very hallowed words. If people fall, can they not also rise? If they break away, can they not return? The stork in the sky knows when to migrate. The dove and the swallow know the season of return. What human instinct knows the time to turn back? What sparks the conscience? We pray to sense this day anew, attuned to the all of sacred living. Cantor, that was a unique and interesting melody to the Mi Chamocha.
Yes, it was.
It sounds very familiar, though. Something that jogged my memory. Something about another holiday we have coming up.
Is it from the American Revolution?
It's about freedom.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I think I remember.
I'm
It's
getting
about
close.
freedom. You're getting close. Some celebration that involves even the crossing of the Sea of Reeds.
I'll give us some
It's not Hanukkah.
No, but I'll give a hint. The first words we hear are Adir Hu.
Yes, Adir Hu.
And then we say Bimhei Ra.
Bimhei Ram.
And then they
B'yameinu.
and then they say
Yeah.
something, a building, a temple,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And
Right, all about freedom. But freedom from where? Where was this?
freedom from...
New York? After all,
I
we're all
thought-
here in California. Come on, we weren't here 150 years ago.
No, that's well, some of us were.
Well, some, a few.
But
San Francisco,
but
maybe.
I would probably think maybe a freedom from longer ago. Little further
I think
back
a
in
longer,
history.
yeah,
Maybe the last time the Jews were going to be going to the land of Israel.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, that was during the time of Exodus.
Exodus.
And we know the story of Pesach.
Pesach. That's where I've heard that melody during the Seder. We do that towards
During
the
the
end of the
Seder.
Seder.
And
That's
it's
what it
one
is.
of our most beloved melodies, a nice old melody that goes back around 300 so years. Another great traditional from Sinai melody from Germany.
Absolutely, from
Yes.
Germany, right. Probably some beer hall song.
Oh, absolutely.
At any rate, the Cantor is right to bring that melody in for the Mi Chamocha. This is what we do when holidays are coming. So in case you didn't notice, we have a holiday coming up next week. Before the next Shabbat, we're going to celebrate the holiday of... Excellent. Bonus points for everyone in attendance. Excellent. 1,000 points for everyone. What are they good for? You'll find out when you find the Afikomen. As we come to this Shabbat and as we come to the end of this week, we are cognizant that we hopefully will have the ability to leave many of our tasks behind. And so help us, O God, to lie down in peace tonight. But teach us that peace means more than quiet. Remind us that if we are to be at peace at night, we must take heed how we live by the day. Grant us the peace that comes from honest dealing, so that no fear of discovery will haunt our sleep. Rid us and help us to rid ourselves of resentments and hatreds that rob us of the peace that we crave. Liberate us from enslaving habits that disturb us and truly give us no rest. May we inflict no pain and bring no shame and seek no profit from another's loss. May we so live that we can face the whole world with serenity. May we feel no remorse at night for what we have done during the day. And may we lie down in peace tonight and awaken tomorrow, O God, to a richer and to a fuller life. Baruch atah Adonai. Haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. We give thanks to you, O God, for this Shabbat day, which brings us together as a community of faith and hope here in our sanctuary, and with the miracle of the internet, the ability to reach so many through YouTube. For the holiness of this Shabbat, which can lead us to fulfill all that is the best within us, we give you thanks. For the memories of Shabbat enriched by the generations of our people who observed it, and from it drew courage to face hardship and light to dispel darkness, we are truly grateful. We offer thanks for the peace of Shabbat this day, consecrated to family love. Oh God, our turning to you lifts up our humanity. You are the joy of our life, the source of its greatness, its power, and its beauty. Help us, O God, to find inspiration for the coming week. Help us to find peace within ourselves, and more importantly, with one another.
ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת מקדשי שבי שבת כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת כי השביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת זכר ימים ימים אותו קראת שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת והשביעי רצית בו זכר למעשה וראשית זכר למעשה וראשית שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת
my favorite meditation about prayer. A toddler thinks that she cannot walk, but she will. A child fears that he will never swim, but he will. Many, and indeed perhaps maybe even most, of our limitations in life are more perceived than real. It is only ghost figments that are holding us back. In Hebrew, the words for lips, fatayim, is the same word as for banks, as in riverbanks. The banks of a river set its course, establish its boundaries, and define its limitations. When we say, Adonai sifatai tiftach, Adonai, open my lips, we are also saying and challenging ourselves, Adonai, help me to see beyond my perceived limitations. This is truly the power of the prayers we are about to speak. May we take these words to heart. May the spirit and the resiliency of our ancestors motivate us. May the challenge of these words call us to action. And may we find ways to always live with deeds of holiness and with kindness in this world that so desperately needs that. I invite us to rise as we are able.
Lie, 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 la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, lie, 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 la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מחלקי חיים בחסד מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We may be seated. From the cowardice that shrinks from new truth, from the laziness that is content with half-truths, from the arrogance that thinks it knows all truth, O God of truth, deliver us. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yirah na'avod. O Holy One, give me a quiet heart, and help me to hear the still, small voice that speaks within me. That voice calls me to come close to you and to grow in your likeness. That voice teaches me to do my work faithfully, even when no one's eye is upon me. That voice counsels me to judge others kindly and to love them freely. For that voice persuades me to see the divinity in every one I meet. Help me, O God, to come to the end of each day feeling that I used its gifts wisely and that I faced its trials bravely.
Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amecha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amecha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom.
we extend our prayers of shalom, of peace and of wholeness to all who have found that sense of peace and shalom in their lives disturbed, maybe even shattered by the challenges they are facing. We include, of course, the people of Ukraine who are continuing to suffer under what is truly a horrific abomination. That the nations of our world are not able to do anything with regards to this violence and atrocities committed against innocent civilians of a foreign nation is appalling to my mind. Just as it is for those whose bodies have been ravaged by cancer and illness and things that are beyond our control to stop their influence and impact of suffering upon so many. If prayer were the only antidote, we surely would have prayed ourselves into the world of our dreams. There have been others from our past who faced far more threat to their existence than we here in the United States face. I know that they must have poured out their hearts in prayers to God with such passion and emotion that would pale by our words by comparison. If prayer were the only answer, then we will have certainly have succeeded long before this 21st century. And so we know that it takes more than prayers. It takes action. It takes commitment. It takes courage. It takes a willingness to speak out. May we find that courage through these words we are about to share. Words that call us to bring hope and healing to those that are in need. Words that call upon us to do what we can to help alleviate suffering wherever it is to be found. In our own hearts, in our own homes, in our own communities, in our own state, in our own nation, and indeed in this entire world. That is the only way that we as human beings can merit the blessings with which we have been blessed, this beautiful planet that provides us with so much. The idea of a singular God was to hopefully break down the divisions that we have built up amongst ourselves, and yet we find that we have now continued to build up those very divisions. If anything, during the last 2.5 years, we have been taught that life does not respect boundaries or international borders, that life does not respect status, wealth, or intelligence or education. Life happens, and so we are called upon to respond with all that we have to aid those who are in need. That is what this prayer is supposed to challenge us all to do. May we find the strength and the courage to do exactly that. If you are upset by what you see in the world around us, speak out. There are all kinds of ways that we can speak to our elected leaders. If the failure of the United Nations disturbs you as it disturbs me, write your congressman, congresswoman, your representative, and let them know. That is our responsibility. to do what we can. May these words inspire us to do exactly that. And may all those who are facing whatever the suffering it is that they are facing, may they find a way through that challenge. May the powers of healing that have been planted within all of us come to the aid of those who are suffering. And may those who desire peace above all else speak out to those who crave war and violence and destruction. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors give us the courage to bring hope and healing to all who are in need. And let us say, Amen.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in the sunlight, or even a tiny grain of sand. To worship is to work with dedication and skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. Worship is loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain. Worship is kindred fire in our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and acts of love. Worship is the mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is an inarticulate silence yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment open to the sky of the eternal. Worship occurs with words, with melodies, but worship also occurs without words and without melodies. Sometimes silence is the best form of prayer. We take this opportunity to pause from the words that we share, the melodies that we sing, so that we may take this time and listen to what is truly inside our hearts. We pause for a moment of silent meditation or such other prayer as the heart may prompt.
Shalom dimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Shalom dimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Shalom dimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom, shalom aleinu ve'amo Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'amo Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'amo Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'amo Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'amo Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'amo Yisrael.
Thank you very much, Cantor Jaffe, for the beautiful music you bring to our worship service, as always. Dr. Ray, as always, pleasure to share the bima with you and to have you tickling the clavinova as you do so well. To our technical trio, David Youngman, Chris Jastrock, and Phil Carey, thank you very much for helping us stream our worship services on our YouTube channel to maintain connection with those members of our congregation who are not yet able to join us here in person. And to those of you who have joined us here, thank you for being here on this Friday night. Tonight is a very special Shabbat in many ways. The Shabbat is known as Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat. Why? Because the next Shabbat begins the holiday of Passover, Pesach. Well done. Bonus points again to everybody here. This was the Shabbat on which the rabbi offered the sermon, traditionally. This was it. Not Rosh Hashanah, not Yom Kippur, just Shabbat HaGadol. Why? Because this was the Shabbat that everybody came to temple, even more than Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Why? Because one could at one time only get matzah from their local synagogue. All right, Manischewitz gets started in Cincinnati, Ohio, with the whole idea of mass-producing matzah, which previously were in the shape of a circle. It is Manischewitz that created square matzah. Why? Because it fit best through the machines. Why? Because it fit best in the box for shipping. And so Manischewitz transformed the entire Jewish world with square matzah in a box that you could purchase anywhere. Chas v'chalila. Needless to say, there were a whole bunch of people who complained about that, because now a whole variety of people who are working in synagogues to make matzah for Passover, guess what? Had to find something else to do. And Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat that everybody came to synagogue for because that was when they got their matzah, was now relegated to Albertsons, Ralph's, Kroger's. By the way, if you are having trouble finding matzah, Sprouts, Amazon Fresh, and Ralph's still have matzah. Regular, plain, kosher for Passover matzah. Egg matzah is not kosher for Passover because it has egg in it, and you can only have flour and water in matzah that is kosher for Passover. It is because you made it with matzah that was only made with flour and water, into which you added the egg, and at that point it's okay. 18 is the magic number, yes. We're going to do that on Sunday with our Pesach Palooza, with our religious school students. We're actually going to make matzah within 18 minutes. Hopefully on the grill. We'll see. So this is Shabbat Hagadol, this big Shabbat before we get to Passover. It is the time when we would engage in spring cleaning. We are to search out the chametz in our possessions and get rid of it before Passover. But the challenge to us is not only to find the chametz that is in our cupboards, but even more importantly, our mystics teach us to find the chametz that resides within our hearts. Think about what this chametz is. We live in such modern times. If we want bread, we go to the grocery store and we buy a loaf of bread. It's not a problem. And if we are so adventurous that we might want to make our own bread at home, then all we have to do is rip open a packet of Fleischmann's yeast, dump it in there, and in 2 hours, bada bing, bada bang, we're almost ready to go. That's not the bread of the ancient world. The bread of the Israelites, the bread until modern times, was sourdough bread. You had a bowl of bubbling, oozy stuff. I actually tried this for a while, for about 9 months. But you know what? When you have a starter of sourdough, it's like having a third child, or in our case, a fourth child. Or in our case, with a dog, a fifth child. You have to feed this thing. You have to drain stuff out of it. You have to use it. If you don't use it, it dies. If you don't use it and add more flour to it, it dies. This is a tragedy. And so for about 9 months, I did sourdough. And then I decided it's a lot of work. I'm living in the modern age. Fleischmann's is just fine with me. But in the ancient world, this is what you did. All you had to do was take flour and water, mix it in a bowl, leave it on your counter for a week. That's what I did to start my sourdough. Left it there on the counter. A week later, it's bubbling and oozy from the natural yeast that's in the air. The stuff was ready to go, and I did make several batches of really quite delicious sourdough. I was really impressed. And if I didn't have to do any other work, I might very well stay home and have done that. But California Edison doesn't want to receive payment in sourdough loaves, and Southern California Gas doesn't want to receive payments in sourdough loaves, and so good thing I gave that up. But that was the bread from the ancient world, and so the whole idea of getting rid of all of your chametz meant that you had to also get rid of not only the stuff you had already baked, that was chametz, But you had to get rid of your starter. You had to dump it out and start all over again. Fresh spring wheat grain ground into flour with water, and you had to start it all over again. So for a week, the only bread you ate was unleavened because your starter hadn't gotten going yet. They didn't think about keeping a little bit of it and adding it into the fresh batch and get it going. That's not Passover. That's not Pesadicha. When the temple was destroyed by Rome in the year 70, Judaism faced an existential threat the likes of which we have never faced. Even the Holocaust pales in comparison to the threat that the destruction of the temple posed to Judaism of its day and to the Jews of that day. Had our sages not had the creativity and the wisdom to be able to totally morph and retool Judaism, we would not be here. Had our rabbis not had the ability to find within Torah ways to help Judaism evolve into the religion that it would come be, we would not be here. Had it not been for their tenacity or stubbornness, however we choose to look at it, had it not been for their insights and spiritual wisdom, we would not be here. Dayenu, for our ancestors and for our rabbis and sages who were able to move Judaism from its regimented, restricted constraints to the free-flowing, creative outpouring of spiritual energy that it is. And our mystics took this one step further. Not only are we to sweep out the chametz in the corners of our houses, but we are to sweep out the chametz that bubbles and oozes in the corners of our minds, in our hearts. We must do a spring cleaning of ourselves at this time of year. We must identify that which aggravates us, that which angers us, that which stirs us up like the sourdough starter, and we got to get rid of it. We have got to unload it. There is so much anger in the world around us. There is so much anger and animosity against minorities and people of color and Jews and immigrants, and it's leading us down a path of total destruction. We are not unlike Pharaoh, who in his stubbornness wanted to hold on to what he knew was the truth, totally oblivious to those who were saying, this isn't working, and brought about destruction upon himself and his people. And we are following in that same road. As we come to this Shabbat Hagadol, this great Shabbat, in anticipation of the liberation from Egyptian slavery, our tradition teaches us each one of us should feel as if we ourselves were freed from Egyptian slavery. The taskmasters in Egypt were easy to identify. They were the Egyptians. They were the ones in charge. The taskmasters of today are so much more difficult to identify, but all the more important for us to do so. Whether it is outmoded ideals, whether it is ancient bigotries and prejudices, whether it is baseless hatred, we as a society, we as a community, we as a human family must find a way to rid ourselves of that chametz within us. This is the beauty of our tradition, to take a communal activity and to personalize it on the most intimate of natures. when Moses comes to the children of Israel and says to them, God has heard your moaning and your complaining, and it is time for you to leave Egypt. We said to Moses, no, thank you. Better for us to serve the Egyptians than to leave with you and die in the wilderness. Such is the power, such is the draw, such is the magnetism of the past. The only way we are going to move into a better future is if we are willing and have the strength and courage to remove from ourselves and our society the chametz that continues to bubble and ooze. Political parties that set themselves above the people got to end. A nation that accepts the death of tens of thousands of its citizens through gun violence has to end. A nation that feels that poor should be ignored and the rich should continue to prosper has to end. Otherwise, there is no hope for us. We will go like all the other empires, Babylonia, Greece, the Ottomans, the British. This is Shabbat HaGadol. Let us find a way to make this a great Shabbat. Let us find a way to make it a way for us to change, to embrace the uncertainties of tomorrow with the hope of building a better tomorrow for our children and our grandchildren. Shabbat Shalom. We move to the words of our Aleinu, the conclusion of our service. The adoration can be found in your prayer books on page 282 and on the screens in front of you, and I invite us to rise as we are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, those who live on in our hearts and our memories, and in the place we call Olam Haba, the world to come. We call to mind one for whom we are observing the Shloshim period, the 7-day period since her death, Dottie Roth, founding member of Temple Beth Or and a past president of our congregation. To her name we link the names of those whose yardsites we have observed during this past week: Minnie Yellen, Francis Michael, Nancy Saman, Hazel Globerman, Jean Havas, Ruth Weinstein, Stanley Young, David Post, Mary Dean, Adela Grossman, Poliandro, Earl Weiss, Dina Goldman, Dr. John Hom, Nettie Hambro, Philip Levinson, Elchanan Choni Berman, Tessie Rose Weinstein, Leon Zarchin, Nathan Zarchin, Rosalie Hirschman, Frida Kaiser, Marvin Rudolph, Muriel Balaban, Alan Dean, Bess Pear, Isidore Kaplan, Abraham Lewis Luff, Adam Marcus Allen Verbin, Rabbi Jacob Mann, Samuel Fuhrman, Esther Benvenisti, William Bernard Harris, and Dorothy Rosenblum. To those names, we link the names of those for whom we are observing the Kaddish period: Ann Phillips, Malcolm Dipperstein, Mark Bornstein, Leah Levine, Vicky Emery, Sheldon Zinberg, Evelyn Levin, Gloria Austin, Dee Dee Ginter, Dorothy Bernard, Molly Shartoff, Erica Cherie Barnes, Kaylee Goldstein, Craig Wilford, Fred Fink, Joyce Ulibari, Ralph Goldstein, Marvin Asnes, Joel Jaffe, Norma Lippy, Claire Phillips, David Kaplan, Helene Lieberman, Laura Cutler, and Marty Hershkowitz. If there's a loved one whom you are remembering, I invite you to share that name at this time. To those that we have named aloud and to those that we keep named in the quiet places of our hearts and memories, we link as well the names and memories of the men and women of our armed forces who have given their lives for our liberties and our freedoms, those who have given their lives for our safety here at home, members of our police, our firefighters, and other first responders, the members of the Israeli Defense Forces who have given their lives for the hope of peace. We link as well those who have perished at the hands of violence in the land of Israel during these past couple of weeks, with these random terrorist attacks in cities of Tel Aviv and elsewhere in Israel. May they again know peace and wholeness and contentment. To their names as well, we link the over 976,000 Americans who have died from COVID-19, and just this past week, the 765 Americans who have died by gun violence. Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be a blessing and inspire us to action to create a better world in our tomorrow as we share together the words of our Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. V'alma divrach hirute v'amlich malchute b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yahei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, Shemei d'kodashah b'richu, le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amil ram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
Ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael,
We conclude our service with perhaps one of the most optimistic songs that we have in our tradition spanning the generations, the idea that there is truly a God in the heavens and the earth, and that there is nothing like this God that can be a source of inspiration to us all. I invite us to put our hands on the shoulders of someone next to us or hold the hand of someone who needs to remain seated if we are so comfortable, as we conclude with the singing of Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We want to have an opportunity to share together in our motzi, so that when we enter our social hall, you can feel free to take some juice or wine, as is your preference, and of course, a bisela of oneg.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Bon appetit.